Hello, everybody. It's Paul Piper here in the studio, and welcome to podcast. I don't know what number it is because I've been so out of the loop. Anyway, we have somebody here today I think you're going to want to listen to and talk. I have a featured guest today, Mr. Jon Griffin, and I'm going to go ahead and bring him on here in just a second here, but let me make sure I have everything in order here. So, Jon, you're on, and what do you have to say to the people of Dallas-Fort Worth area?
Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing all right.
All right. So, I guess, so when you play your shows, what do people come out to see? They like to see you sing or play guitar more?
This is a thing that's been happening lately. And people will come up to me and they'll say, man, you have such a wonderful voice. And your guitar playing's pretty good too.
Hey, that'll work.
And I accept it. I'm not like upset because I kind of feel the same way. I feel like when I sing, I'm really, maybe getting across more so. And then when I'm playing guitar, I'm kind of holding on for dear life.
Oh, really? Well, it's just, are you talking about through the whole night or just from the beginning to the end?
At any point.
At any point.
At any point.
Okay.
It's because I kind of don't really know always where I'm going to go on the guitar. That's part of the fun, but it's also a bit terrifying sometimes, like what should I play next?
Well, I'm the same way, but we do have a really good jam going on at the Forum, though. If you ever get a chance to go out and see everybody at the Forum on Coit Road.
Yes.
Every Wednesday night from 9 to 1 with C.T. Davis Blues Band, Powerhouse Blues Band, actually.
Yeah.
And so I have had some questions in the field about you, like some things like, what are your biggest influences? Who do you learn from when you were younger as a guitar player?
The reason I started playing guitar was Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. Good choice.
Yeah, back in my day, when MTV was still exclusively music, there was it was like a 30-minute program they had called Closet Classics, and they showed old, footage of old rock and roll. And that was the first time I had ever seen footage of Cream, for example, Blue Cheer playing Summertime Blues on some, I think it was either a TV program or whatever. But Jimi Hendrix was on some sort of British version of Top of the Pops. I think that the name of the show was It's Trad Dad or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was a black and white version of Jimi Hendrix and the Experience playing, it was either Foxy Lady or Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire. One of the songs off of Are You Experienced? And he was standing perfectly still, lick for lick, note for note, pulling it off. This was before I had ever seen live footage of Hendrix, but he'd made it look so cool just doing that I was like, I want to do that. I want to play guitar. And I was 12 going on 13, and my mom, I'd already bugged her about taking oil painting lessons. and I'd already bugged her about, kickboxing lessons. And she said, guitar, really? Okay, this is the last obsession I'm going to support. This is the last thing. So, you better make it count. And a friend of mine had a really beat up, crappy guitar in his closet. It was a little student model with maybe 4 frayed strings on it. And I picked it up. I asked him if I could borrow it, and he said, sure. And I took it home, and I just played with the tuning pegs until I came up with what I didn't know then was just an open tuning. Just something that sounded pleasing to the ear. It wasn't dissonant. And I followed my mom around the house for probably 2 weeks, just plucking the strings and saying, look, see, I'm learning to play guitar, and no one's, I need a teacher, or I need a real guitar. She said, all right, finally. Finally I broke her down. She said, all right, fine. I'm gonna get you a guitar. That's it. Don't bug me again. And little did she know, it became an obsession for me, And I listened to the guitar players and the bands that I really enjoyed, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, the standards really. And I could listen to their music and pick out, what they were doing, maybe the melody, maybe the chord progression, whatever, and over time I could just learn these songs. Eventually I did get lessons, which helped a great deal.
Right.
But even after that, I spent a lot of time reading Guitar Player magazine and getting the tablature out of that every month. I basically gutted the magazine every month I got it and just took the tablature out and put it into a binder, cool. so I could learn it. And sometimes I did, and sometimes I had to throw my hands up in the air because it was too hard. But yeah, I was about 12, like I said, 12 going on 13, and when I saw Jimi Hendrix playing guitar, I realized I want to do that. I want to learn to do that.
Awesome. So what are some of your favorite styles of music? I know you play the blues really well, but do you have any other preferences? Like, you like playing jazz?
When I was young, I took a deep dive into the blues. I respect and admire jazz, but at the same time, it's something that I need to educate myself. I started listening to Joe Pass, who, come on, that's like the gold standard of jazz guitar. The dude's a beast. Oh yeah. But I like the way he can break down what he's doing and explain it. A lot of it still goes over my head because a lot of it is very chordal, and I since I'm an ear player, I'm untrained, and I don't read music. That's a problem, and that's actually something I've seriously considered applying myself to, because the more I learn just about chord progressions and scales, the more I realize this stuff is really useful, and I don't have to always think about it while I play, but having it in the wheelhouse of what I do can only enrich my playing. I'm a huge admirer of Paco de Lucia.
Okay.
I mean, these guys are just phenomenal players. But the first time I saw him play, I was like, get out of here. Right. Is that for real?
I know.
Is he really doing all of that all at once? And I love flamenco, and it's something that I have played with. But I also want to be respectful towards the form. I don't want to just kind of halfway do it. You know what I mean? If I and always, of course, classical guitar. I buckled down once and tried to learn Recuerdos de Alhambra, and just attempting to learn it from an instructional video was an amazing experience. It still is. It resonates because there's that tremolo technique that I'm like, that's really cool. I want to learn that. I'm still trying to learn it, but and of all, I guess I have a really eclectic outlook on guitar. I like guitars, and I like guitar playing, so I can listen to a band like Sonic Youth and come away with something. I can listen to Roy Clark's one of my favorite guitar players. I went to go see him live and was just massively impressed with his multi-instrumentalism and all that, but at the same time, the dude was just a really good picker. So I admire that stuff. Right now, personally, I think Derek Trucks is probably one of the best guitarists out there right now. His slide playing is it almost makes me weep, just the vocal quality he achieves with the slide guitar. It's phenomenal. Let's see. Frank Zappa.
Oh yeah.
I liked his attitude about guitar playing, how he has a pretty basic idea of what he's doing and how much time he has to do it in, but he's not sure what he's going to do. That feels like, to me, it gives me permission to not be meticulous,
right.
But at the same time, go for it. Just if I have this much time to solo, make it count, and make it personal. Still love Jeff Healey.
Jeff Healey's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just.
Did he pass?
He passed away.
That's right.
Yeah,
I remember that. I can't remember when though.
Yeah, and I have a deep and abiding affection and respect for Stevie Ray Vaughan, because I would say that if you listen to my playing, you'll hear it. I mean, I'm a Texas boy. He's a Texas boy.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, he was just, his fame and his influence was just starting after, and then it was cut tragically short. But yeah, somewhere in all that mishmash of players, I like what Pete Townsend said. It's like, when you're a musician, you're like a magpie. You take what you want,
of course,
from other artists, and that's what I do. Somewhere in there is Jon Griffin. Somewhere in there is the originality. But yeah, those are, I guess, in a nutshell, my musical influences.
Well, I can certainly tell. You bring it to the table every time we play together, and we work together a few times, and also when you come to the jams and everything.
Mm-hmm.
People love it. Matter of fact, I talk to a lot of people who love you, and they're like, that's mainly when they come out, especially to jams or wherever you're playing. They just love to come see you sing and play guitar. As far as classical, have you done any classical stuff? Someone was asking me that as well. I didn't know if you mainly did blues or
it's a form of guitar playing. It's its own discipline, and I've only barely even scratched the veneer of the surface of classical technique. Like I said, I tried to learn that one song, and I'm still trying to learn it. I'm gonna have to break down and learn to read sheet music, or at the very least, make that connection before I can give it a serious go. But I'm at the point in my playing where that feels worthwhile. When I was younger, I was just really gung ho to shred and play every note that I knew in a million notes a second, and it wasn't very musical. And there's something that Adam Reed said. I really took it to heart. I think he was actually quoting someone else, but he's like, you really only need one note to be musical. And I thought about that. I was like, yeah, he's right.
Right.
There's and some of the best players, the players that I admire, and not just guitarists, they do so much more with less. And I know that's a cliche, but it's very true. And until I was able to actually embrace that, I think my playing was very static, But now it feels like it's actually becoming more. It's growing, So.
Yeah, well, less is better. I've done this for many years, and I admit, when I was younger myself, I always wanted to, how many chops can I put in here? But I realized after working with different people, man, they just want groove. They want it solid. Matter of fact, if I was another instrumentalist, and I was wanting to hire a drummer, and let's say I went over to North Texas State University and I wanted to hire some drummers, if I see some drummers playing choppy stuff, real technical, yeah, that's great. Or if I see some drummers playing real nice, solid beat with a tasteful feel every now and then, that's who I want.
Yeah.
And also somebody who's versatile. And this also stands out for every instrumentalist, guitar player, bass players.
Yeah, everybody has a pocket. It's
Yeah.
and it's absolutely true. And my favorite players are able to, they're able to stay in the pocket and then go out of it and come back. You're one of them. You know,
Thank you.
Bubba Barge is
yeah.
another player like that. Jared Bacon is another player
great
like
drummers.
that. Yeah, but the beauty of it is that I know you can go far out, but then reel it back in.
Yeah, ran it in.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of a mature musician.
Right.
And that's what I appreciate. That's what I'm shooting for, actually. It's like one of the things I've noticed about some of my favorite players. When Jeff Beck passed away, it really hit me hard because I didn't mention him among my influences, but he was, in my opinion, probably one of the greatest guitarists of the era of guitarists that produced Page and Clapton.
Oh yeah.
The thing that I admired most about him is that he never stopped innovating, and his playing just got more and more refined over the course of his career. Up to the day he passed away, I would argue that it was never the same Jeff Beck twice. And what he was doing technically is just stunning, and as a guitarist, I'm just in awe, like, dude, how are you even getting that sound out of that guitar? It's not just the pickups, it's not just the make of the guitar. There's something happening between the hands and the frets. That's what I strive to do, is to grow as a player like that, in that vein.
Right.
10 years from now, what I really want people to say is, wow, Jon doesn't sound anything at all like I remember from that night whenever. He sounds better. He sounds more refined. He sounds like, he might actually know where he's going, even if I don't.
Absolutely.
I can always appear to, and I think that's what being a mature player is. It's like you might not know exactly what you're going to play next.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because you're confident that you can get there.
Of course.
And that's maybe that's something that's elusive. Maybe that's something that actually happens. I'm gonna find out for sure.
Well, it's also important to know where count one is. I mean, I have
for sure.
drum students who, bless their hearts, we're doing fill exercises, we're doing drum patterns, but when they do the fill exercises, for some reason they never come back in on one after a 4/4 count time signature. And I tell them, I says, listen, this is called structured fills. And structured fills basically means, and this goes for guitar players, bass players, any instrumentalist. If you're going to do a fill, and if you want to do something crazy out of maybe polyrhythmic, always count in your head and know where one is. Because if you, like, for example, if you're going, know where one is.
Right.
And which brings me up to a funny story. I won't name any names, but we had a bass player that we did a gig with, and he's more of a country bass player. And I was working with a jazz saxophonist. And it was just like jokes galore going back and forth. And the keyboard player and the bass player, or the keyboard player says, hey, let's trade fours, but let's just get real crazy on these fills. As long as we know where one is, we're good. Well, I did something really crazy. It was polyrhythmic, it was out of time, but I knew where one was, and I came back in on one, but the bass player didn't quite follow me. And I think his words were, hey, quit it. Anyway, I won't say what the word was he told me, but
I think I follow you.
For those that know the story, that they know who I'm talking about. But my point is if you're going to do fills, be tasteful with them. Don't get too busy unless you want to do it that way. A lot of my students ask me, says, well, I don't have anything planned out. Says, you don't have to. The thing about fills is you never know what you're going to do. It just happens. But when you do it, make it tasteful and have fun with it.
Right.
So I don't know if that's kind of some things that you do when you're playing on a gig, when you're doing soloing, whether you're doing chromatic stuff or just regular soloing over major or minor keys, you obviously know how to get back to the A section, and you know your formats too. Yeah.
I remember, and I'm probably dead wrong on this, but I remember reading about how Charlie Parker started improving. It was a song called Cherokee.
Oh yeah,
and
great song.
he realized that if he resolved whatever he was doing back to the root, he could play whatever. And the young players at the time, and the guys that would go on to, found bebop, they were practicing doubling. That's, you take whatever you're playing and you double it. You speed it up, right?
Right.
So between understanding that he could resolve back to the root of, you know, whatever scale or chord or whatever he was playing, and doubling, that was really the birth of his improvisational style, which is arguably the birth of bebop jazz and later on other jazz forms. So for me as a guitar player, I interpret that as a sort of take on phrasing, right?
Right.
For me, I'm not going to be doing that, you know, flurry of notes like Bird. I need to focus more on phrasing. So as long as I can resolve back to the one and keep my phrasing within the rhythm and the structure of the overall song, I think I'm going to be okay. You know, I think it's going to work out. But phrasing is something that I did not have any inkling of when I was a young guitar player. It was all just, you know, storm the beaches, you know, conquer your enemies, whatever. Now phrasing it makes me feel like there's an elegance to the overall, you know, playing, not just mine, but everybody. If we're all mindful of phrasing, then, you know, it sounds so much better. So that's what I try to do, you know, when I'm soloing. But truth be told, the more I grow as a player, the less soloing becomes important.
Right.
And soloing should always be an extension of the overall structure of the song, as opposed to a moment for me to shine or anything like that. I've been told, people have told me that I solo with a very vocal kind of phrasing, and that's not. I think that's because I try to, you know, approximate the human voice when I play. I try to get to that feeling. And also, somebody told me a long time ago that if you play by ear, you can usually sing what you play. And he was right. Yeah,
it makes sense.
You know, and so that's that. When I'm playing, it's kind of just an extension of me singing. So, you know, but yeah, when I listen to other guitar players, it becomes apparent to me the guys that are very technically proficient and the guys that aren't necessarily technically proficient, but they come more from what I feel like is my side of the street, which is kind of an untutored, unlettered, you know, from the gut sort of approach. I don't think that either one is necessarily better than the other, but one lends itself better to certain scenarios than the other approach. Like if you're a technically proficient player that can read music and all that, you're going to read the charts. You're going to get studio work,
of course.
You know. But if you're somebody like me, it's not as forthcoming, you know. And that's, you know, again, one of the reasons why I want to dig into actually educating myself more on the technical aspects of, you know, scalar knowledge and reading music, so that I could have those opportunities.
Yeah, well, you know, and you can still get a lot of studio work just by playing the ear. I mean, I don't know if you know the story about Buddy Rich, drummer great, you know. He, from what I understand, and my father and him kind of knew each other back in the day, so we always used to go see his show at the Venetian Room.
Your dad knew Buddy Rich?
Yeah.
I know.
I don't want to say he knew him closely.
They were colleagues.
Yeah, because my dad was a producer and he did a lot of stuff, the jingle circuit here in the DFW area back in the day. Of course, he's since passed on. And my mother as well, jingle singer, so that's kind of where I grew up, in the studio. And I've been in the studio since I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and it wasn't for recording, it was for, hey, don't touch anything. But my father gave me my first studio gig when I was, 15, 14? It was a timpani roll for an Ice Capade show for Six Flags.
Oh, wow.
And here's a funny story. Michelle's probably going to be listening on this one. So we went to Six Flags and we went and saw the Ice Capade show, and I wanted to hear my timpani roll, right? So when the timpani roll, you know, ladies and gentlemen, presenting, Michelle goes, and I totally missed it. And then when she finished whistling, it was gone. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, you still there? Okay. No, it was fun though, and it was the first real studio gig I ever got. And ever since then, that's when I decided I wanted to do sessions.
Right.
So I really got strong on my reading and started learning all different versatile drum styles. My drum teacher, Henry Oxtell, was working out at North Texas University, taught me a lot of stuff, and one of the main things he told me was, or first of all, he asked me, hey, do you want your phone to ring more? I said, absolutely. Then you need to get good at every style you can and just be adamant on it.
Right.
And so I did. And I went and learned everything as I know you. That's why I asked when I asked the question earlier about other styles of stuff that you're doing. And since then, I've picked up a few session things here and there, and it's been good. But anyway, going back to what we're doing in the music industry, both with recording and live, I think it's very rewarding for it all to just come into your plate and give you a very prosperous music career. And one of the things I wanted to find out from you, because a lot of people were asking me, hey, he does the blues. One thing I wanted to ask you, when you mentioned singing, do you ever sing to match your leads? Like, you ever seen those guys where they sing at the same time? You know what I'm talking about?
I can do that, and I have.
And
done
I think I've seen you do that. But anyway, enough of my show. Enough of this. It's not my. I'm not the guest. You are. People are probably like, okay, Piper, shut up. No. Anyway, so the Forum is a place that we work at every Wednesday night. If you guys get a chance, come on out. You'll probably be there.
That's my home away from home.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling up to it, and I usually am, I'm there.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm good friends with CT, and I'm friends with you and
CT Davis, y'all.
That's right. Grits Lewis and Louis Fluellen are a couple of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
Oh,
Some-
they're
some wonderful players, and I get to rub shoulders with people that I admire. It was and sometimes I'm asked to be the support guitarist. If Jackie Dawn is priorly engaged or Jason Cloud can't provide backup, then CT asks me, and that's always just a huge treat. I got to back up, Texas Slim, who's somebody that I've always loved playing with since the first time I ever played. I can't remember exactly when that was, but the first time I ever got a chance to play with him, I was like, yeah, this dude is hot stuff. He is the real deal.
Oh yeah. Well, we worked together with Slim a lot with the General. Over at what's the place over at Cedar Creek Lake?
Vernon's
on Lakeside.
Yeah.
Those are some fun little shows.
They were some fun. It's kind of sandy and gritty.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe a bit hot, but very fun for sure. Yes.
Yeah, Texas Slim is always so fun to work with, and he's very vocal, both singing and talking. I love him. He's great. But as far as the scene, whereabouts are you playing other than the Forum? Are you working around town? Coming up, anything in the schedule?
What I'm finding is that I'm getting a lot of solo singer-guitarist work, which I'm absolutely fine doing. It's work, though. Playing with an ensemble is almost like a luxury at this point, because I thoroughly enjoy it. I feel more supported. If I have a band behind me, let's say I've got Grits or Uriah Stake on bass, I feel that bottom, and I feel like I have a more surface to work off. That's just bass, and then I have a drummer like you or Bubba or Jared. That's just one more layer of support, and then someone like Lewis or Kirk Hampton on keyboards.
Sure.
It just all comes together. When it's me and acoustic, I have a lot more control, but it's all on me. And by the end of the night, my hands are like, stiff as a board. I'm not the spring chicken I used to be. I'm getting a lot more solo work. When I do play out ensemble, it's either with the quartet, and it's some iteration. It could be you. It could be one of the drummers I mentioned before. One of the keyboardists, one of the bass players. At the Balcony Club, I think I've got a show coming up in September. I play every Saturday at a sports bar called the Avenue Sports Grill from 2 to 5 p.m. and I get to play with Uriah when he's available, Bubba when he is available, and Lewis. And thank goodness Lewis is on the mend. He seems to be
that was kind of scary. I hope he's doing okay. I haven't checked.
Not to go into too many details, but I was praying for my brother.
Oh yeah, me too.
Let's see. We do that every Saturday. Okay. Sometimes a Thursday if there is another band that was booked, but the proprietor of the Avenue has made it known that he wants me there with the band as much as possible. I play a duo with a good friend of mine named Marco Barrera. Marco's an excellent player from South Texas, relatively recent transplant to North Texas. I think probably one of the more versatile players I've heard, because he will tell you to your face that he can't play blues very well, but he can. But he does have the almost encyclopedic, repertoire, because he played in I think it was a Tejano band, and they also played like hits, so kind of like a Tejano / show band / whatever people asked for,
like salsa, right? That kind of stuff.
I'm not so sure, but we do a duo. I sing and play acoustic, and he plays electric, and we've been playing at Strokers.
Okay.
And sometimes I have the ensemble out at Strokers. I got a gig coming up this month at the Freeman.
Okay.
Where I'll be featuring a new keyboard player, a fellow named Jamar Owens. No, you might not be. He's I play every Sunday in a worship service, and he's the musical director for that.
Yeah. Okay.
He's the musical director for them, and a singer, a lady singer named Tamara, who's just a powerhouse. So I asked both of them to perform with me at the Freeman on the small stage. So I got that coming up, and they're really super excited about it, because I don't think either one of them play out much. They're both great musicians, but they just they don't get out just a whole lot. I have some, like I said, solo shows coming up around some hotels around town.
Okay.
One of my go-to performance spots has been Rick's Chop House.
Oh yeah,
for years.
I played there a few times.
Yeah. I think they're from what I understand, they're gonna maybe selectively start bringing back bands, but I don't know if that's really the case. I used to play there with either you and Jay Drange years ago, or Peter Kaplan and Jay Drange.
Oh yeah.
However that worked out years ago. That used to be one of our regular spots.
I haven't seen Jay in a while. I guess he's still, I don't know if he's still in Oklahoma or not.
No, he's in Albuquerque these
Albuquerque
days.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And running the show.
Yeah.
I asked him, so how's Albuquerque treating you? And he's like, it's more like how I'm treating Albuquerque.
That's typical Jay. That sounds like him. Oh my gosh, you nailed it. That's what he is. Yeah.
If you're out there, Jay, I love you, man.
Yeah, man.
Give me a call sometime.
Let's see. What was he said? Hey, I got this riff. My hand's about this big. I could cover 5.
And I think he knows every song the Beatles ever recorded.
Yeah.
And he when we'd get together, he'd be like, hey, you know this one? No. How about this one? No. And on until finally I'm like, I don't know any of the songs you know.
I think under looking for music on Spotify or any of those platforms, just look under his name and he'll know it all.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So let's see, Freeman Balcony Club, the Chop House, a little restaurant in McKinney that's moving locations, Harvest. And I'm gonna give them a shameless plug. The food's great.
Oh yeah,
and it's a neat spot. Let's see. Those are the ones that really stick out that people might actually have heard of.
Okay, very good. Matter of fact, I think I have a clip of you, and I think it was from the forum, right? I think there was a clip of you that I found on YouTube, and I'm gonna go ahead and play it. I think you're doing, if I remember, I saw you were doing some blues, a lot of blues soloing over it, and you did a lot of cool stuff on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and play it.
Okay.
And guys, this is Jon Griffin Guitar extraordinaire. So there you have it, guys. Awesome stuff.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. One of the things I want to ask you, some people in the field were asking me about your singing and how you write music. Like, are you a lyricist? I mean, you do come up with some good lyrics and you add a lot of good stories to your music, right?
I try. I come from a literary background, and I am a practicing poet. So it's not a far stretch when it comes to lyrics, but lyrics are different. I mean, it's a different sort of approach, a different sort of mindset for me when I'm writing lyrics, and I love the story of songs, and by story I mean when I hear something that I like, when I hear lyrics that move me, when I encounter that, I gotta know, who is this person? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
And I'll just research it and explore it, to death. But that's because it's important to me. Knowing the words to a song, there are people that can sing along to a song, and that's great. But I gotta know more. I gotta go further in as far as like my understanding of it. And I try to bring that level of attention to the lyrics that I write. I'm not always successful, but I try to write about personal, experience. And go for the universal, connection that we all have. Recently, I was discussing with another poet, and she was writing about love, and my take is that's hard for me. It's hard for me. It's difficult for me to write about love without falling into cliche. Like, because we all are like, oh, my love is special. It's really not. I mean, it is to you, and that's great. But really, overall, you think you're the first person in the history of people, that's ever had this moment or had this particular feeling. There's a reason why there are all these universal cliches, symbols, and tropes that go with love. So, my favorite songs, my favorite lyrics about love and loving matters are usually the ones that are not romantic at all.
Right.
They're not what you would expect.
Right.
What was that song by Nilsson? F You. That's
Oh.
about love. It's a love song. It's just
Well,
not the one you would expect. It's not the direction you would expect.
We played that one at our church gig.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that went over.
No, I'm kidding. All right, joke of the day. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's what Keith Moon said when what was it? They were talking about getting Led Zeppelin together. He said, "Oh, that's going to go over like a Led Zeppelin." That's apparently how they got their name. I bet that song went over like a Led Zeppelin at your church.
Oh my gosh, yeah, crash and burn.
But lyrically, there are people that writers that have informed the direction I like to go, or these verses and songs that go around in my head that are inspirational to me. And of course, I learned a lot listening to the Beatles.
Oh yeah,
because you can almost have the two hemispheres of the brain,
right?
Lennon and McCartney. You have
a lot of great music back in that day.
Yeah. But you have one guy that's like kind of poppy sensibilities, and you can write about love and make it convincing. And then you have this other guy that's, kind of brittle, a little fragile, but at the same time, with a sharp wit, and you have these two guys collaborating together. Whoa.
Yeah.
It's not by, accident that they came up with such affecting songs. Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like Bob Dylan just because he rhymes. So I don't even know where he's going with any of this, but the sensibility behind the rhyme is what captures me. But then there are moments where that image just shines right through and cuts right through to the heart of whatever it was I was looking for, or whatever it was I was feeling in that moment. One of my favorite songs, I guess if I had to have a top 10. Like a Rolling Stone would be in there, because when I listened to it as a young person, I felt a particular way about it, and the older I got, the more it just shifted into something far more emotionally affecting. I wasn't prepared to feel the way that I felt about it. Listening to it at one point, it's like, when you've got nothing to lose. You're invisible now. You've got no secrets to conceal. And I just realized that's what growing up and growing older, that's what a lot of it's about.
Yeah, of course.
I really love that. Leonard Cohen, of course, is somebody that, like I said, I think I might have told you this before. He's the one to beat. Nobody writes about life, love, sex, death, loss with more honesty and just weariness.
Wow.
You can hear it in his voice, just
amazing stuff.
yeah, it really is. And then I listened to a lyricist like Townes Van Zandt, and the story behind just how he became who he was, so heartbreaking. And then you listen to the lyrics, and I can't remember where I heard it. It was either a documentary, it might have been Guy Clark, it might have been somebody else talking about Townes. But they said that he wrote his songs as a way to try to recover the memories that he lost when he was given insulin shock therapy.
Oh boy.
As part of his program to break him of his addictions or his mental illnesses or whatever. And I'm just like, that, I mean, when you listen to a song like Poncho and Lefty, which the story of that song, how Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings, recorded it and had such great success with it, and it really kind of saved Townes Van Zandt's life in some respects, gave him some steady income. But people don't talk about the story of the song itself. It's about betrayal. Right. Poncho and Lefty, was it the day they laid poor Poncho low, Lefty split for Ohio. Nobody knows where he got the bread to go. Well, it's because he sold his friend out to the federales. He set him up to be killed, or that's my take on it. And I'm just like, that song just breaks me every time I hear it. I don't care who sings it.
Right.
I just can't get over, and then, what is it? Folks all talk how Poncho fell and Lefty stays in cheap hotels.
Oh man.
But it's almost like, that's your just dessert, friend. For betraying the trust of, someone that trusted you. And I just, every time, it's the story of that song gets to me. But anyway, I could go on and on about lyrics and songwriting. Like I said, I love the stories. A
lot of great stories about there. And what's weird, well, not weird, but it's like I'm more of an instrumentalist kind of guy. I like to listen to the music part. And Michelle, those of y'all know the drummer's wife. Are you listening, Michelle? She always bugs me about, why can't you? Do you know what that song's about? I says, no. I just like the way the drums and the guitars and the keyboard sounds on it. I love the chord structures. So you don't listen to lyrics? Not all the time. I don't really know the stories, but maybe I should.
Do you know? Then this is something I keep in a factoid I keep in the back of my mind. Do you know who really loved country and western music back in the day and loved the lyrics because of the stories? Charlie Parker.
Oh wow!
His friends would catch him like feeding the jukebox and listening to some old just country music. They'd be like, "What are you doing listening to that stuff, Bird?" You're like, "Man, it's the stories. They're great."
Yeah.
I thought if Bird could appreciate that, I at the very least ought to give it a shot, and sure enough.
Yeah, and the same with the guy that I tour with, Michael Martin Murphey, has some stories about that. And if you've ever been to a Michael Martin Murphey show, he tells that story. Basically, his record company was firing him because his songs were too positive, right? He talks about family life, love, marriages that last 50 years plus. And they wanted him to sing about depression and women and men breaking up.
Well, I mean, come on, Wildfire. You can't get much more depressing than that.
Well, I know.
It's a great song. It's a staple of 70s radio. But the first time I really grasped what the lyrics were about, I needed a hug.
I know, right? Well, anyway, he disagreed with his record label, and he started writing songs of positive nature, like "Whatsoever For," "Long Line of Love," "Wildfire." Well, "Wildfire" was it was about a woman and
it's haunting
the
for
horse,
sure. Yeah.
And somehow word got back to the record label that people started really loving it. And now the record label says, you know what? Okay, let's go for it. And he said the joke that he put in there was, when we start singing songs about depression and I lost my wife or I lost my pickup truck, it reverts to line dancing. Anyway.
That's the recipe for line dancing success.
But anyway, long story short, a lot of the stuff that Murph has written has been positive stuff. And he has a lot of songs out there, a lot of cowboy songs. I think 50 years plus of albums and stuff. Anyway, that just reminded me when you said that. As far as your vocals, did you ever learn from a vocal coach to sing it, as far as singing goes, or did you just learn it as you went on the fly?
No.
Okay.
No. I briefly, when I was going to college and at SFA in Nacogdoches, I was briefly in the choir.
Okay.
And I was briefly in the music program, briefly, like a semester. And then I hightailed it out of there because what they were offering was completely legit if I wanted to learn a certain, in a certain format, in a certain style. But I didn't. Instead, I joined a reggae band.
Oh, okay.
And I started singing in that band first. The singer that was in the band quit, and because I was playing guitar and paying attention to the vocal cues, I learned all the lyrics. So I kind of stepped in as a singer, and at that point, I had no business singing anything. My voice was not good.
Right.
I didn't have any grasp of dynamics. I didn't have much grasp of phrasing outside of this is where the lyrics go here. Over time, I just listened to more. And I really started trying to test the limits of what I could do vocally. And that's what I'm still trying to do. It's also, again, just like learning to read music and learning more about music theory and all that, I really should invest some time in some vocal training. Just a few nights ago, I was at the Chop House in McKinney, and I was performing solo. And this, lady comes up to me, and she throws a bill into the tip jar. She says, I'm a classically trained musician.
Uh-oh.
And
No,
you're really good.
Oh,
Your vocals are outstanding. And she said,
Awesome.
"No, I don't pay those compliments lightly because I am classically trained and a pianist, and so I hear you." And that made me feel really good. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, could I not be doing more?
Right.
Could I not be doing something a little more technically proficient? And the answer is always yes, because I just simply haven't invested the kind of time that's required.
Yeah.
Also, I've got some bad habits when it comes to guitar playing and singing. I've got some bad habits. I blow my voice out.
Yeah.
I've lost a gig because I blew my voice out, showed up and sang like this,
man.
and had the proprietor say, thanks but no thanks. I there are times when I'm playing, guitar when I feel it. I feel that I'm just not warmed up enough to hit this lick, or I keep attempting to play this particular part in a solo or a chord, chord progression, and I just don't hit it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's when I'm kicking myself, because, dude, you could practice. You could come from a place of more confidence if you just invested a little more time. And then on top of that, though, I keep in mind I'm hustling like a hooker out here for shows. I mean, really, I'm on the phone most of the time. I was talking to Hash Brown one night. He and Mark Senna were at the Chop House, and I was at Harvest, and so I went to go check them out and just see how they were doing. And I said, "Yeah, Hash, I'm doing music full time now," and almost without missing a beat, he was like, "Yeah, most of your time's gonna be on the phone, or texting people," and he's at 100% right, because the self promotion and the hustling for gigs never stops. And what's more, you throw social media into the mix. It's not like I'm sitting around, not doing anything.
Right.
It's budgeting my time to fit a rehearsal, personal practice of rehearsal in. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
Oh, I know.
It's like, there are probably times when you're like, yeah, I should have practiced.
I wish I had time to practice as much as I would love to. Getting busy with teaching and working and a little touring and some recording stuff. Man, there's so many things. Y'all can't see it, but the drum kit's to my left here. No, I don't have a camera for it, and I'm gonna leave that alone.
Put that in the budget. Drum cam.
Drum cam. Oh, I have one. Actually, you're using it right now.
Oh, okay.
Only because out of the 5 or 6 iPads that I have, I use them for cameras. There are 1 or 2 of them that aren't cooperating with me, so I've had to sacrifice one for you. And but that's okay. We're working. As far as the practice thing, what I like to practice when I have time is do all of my rudiments. For those of you drummers out there who are wanting to get better at your craft, rudiments are the way to go. Get good at it. It's like rhythmic scales, right? Different warm-ups. There are some things that I'm trying to do as far as different fill ideas, because I'm tired of doing the same kind of stuff. And boy, sometimes CT puts me in the spot, especially when we're doing Use Me Up, or what are the other songs where he wants to start with a bass solo with grits, and then he wants me to say, oh great, okay, here we go, let's see if I remember what I tried to practice earlier today. No, but practicing is important. When you do you ever practice scale stuff when you're vocals before you do a show? Or do you work on your vocal training a little bit?
Yeah.
You do? Like, what are some of the things that you do? Like, do you do like da-da-da-da, like falsetto stuff? Or
I try to work on my falsetto. I used to have a much firmer grasp on it, but since then, one of the things I've noticed about me is that if I don't work on something at least once a day or every other day, it just falls by the wayside really quick. So I try to work on my falsetto as much as I can, and I'm still exploring what my range is. And if I can't sing a song in its original key, then I spend my time trying to transpose. Like, where am I going to go with this? If it's an E, is it more of a song for me in E flat or D? Does it need to be lower? Where am I going to get the most vocal delivery, for this particular song? And I found that more often than not, C and C sharp work out for me, so I'll start there in some cases, but it's not always the case. Sometimes I try to mimic, because if I can mimic something, that means that I can actually learn to sing it in my own voice. Usually, I also play with genre. Let's say, for instance, you take a song. I love what Etta James did with "Take It to the Limit."
Okay.
And that's a good example. She took a song by the Eagles, "Take It to the Limit," and she made it her own. It's very soulful, Etta James style. When sometimes I'll hear a song and I think to myself, oh, can I give it the Take It to the Limit treatment? Can I
Great
take this
song, by the way.
song? Yeah, it is a great song. And R.I.P. Meisner, right? One of my favorite Eagle. Honestly, I think he sang. What was it? Was it One of These Nights? I know he sang "Take It to the Limit."
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. And anyway, so I'll listen to a song that's popular on the radio, and I realize, oh, that's just maybe a whole half or a whole step down, and a little as Wilson Pickett called it, the cornbread in the voice,
Right.
to an R&B or a soul track.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Let me see if I can do that. Just take that song and reinterpret it as a soul, song, and more often than not, I can.
Yeah.
And then there's the question, if I can, does that mean I should? And sometimes the case is no. It doesn't need this particular, treatment or whatever. But vocally, yes, I try to work on my voice as much as I can, and then I do practice scatting along with the guitar because it's fun.
Sure.
When I do it, people are like, "Oh, that's neat. How do you do that?" It's like, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of lazy when it comes to guitar playing, so I'll try to find a spot on the neck where I can play everything within just a few, centimeters of each other. I don't want to break my hand trying to play like Larry Carlton or whatever. I mean, those guys are geniuses, and there's a reason why they're as awesome as they are, and there's a reason why I'm just like trying to stay in this little box here. But I those are the skills I practice, and I do practice scales.
Good.
And the more, like I said, the more I'm digging into scales, and the chordal scalar connection. Playing in a church has really helped that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same here. I feel the same way.
There's a lot of the music's repetitive, but at the same time, there's a structure to it that just makes sense. And learning that structure, even kind of like halfway, has done more to help my playing in other areas.
Right.
I'm really getting into rhythm, really getting into rhythm with the fills, especially those old school, R&B rhythm fills. They're so pretty, and just help everything come together. I really kind of did everything backwards as far as like guitar and vocals. I started doing it when I really didn't have much business doing it, but I was thrust into these positions. Like, we didn't have a singer. So you're gonna have to start singing, John. Yeah, but I'm terrible. Yeah, whatever. We need a guitar player, for X, Y, and Z in this reggae band or whatever. But I don't know the first thing about reggae rhythm. It'll come to you. So I always sort of thrown myself into these situations, head first, and come out on the other side learning more. But I don't know. I think that's the way I learn. I think that's how I do it. It works for me. But above all, I have had people in the past come up and ask me, how did you learn to play? Why did you start playing? And like I said, I saw Jimi Hendrix. He made it look cool. But why did I keep playing? I think that's the better question. And I kept playing because, and I think this is true for every creative type, you have to be obsessed.
Of course.
You have to. Because one day I'm going to learn to play whatever. Yeah. Or one day I'm going to do this. No, you're not. No, you're not. I'm not saying you never can, but if you go into it with that mindset,
sure,
you're not. You're not going to. Not in any significant way. I hate the question, how did you get so good? Because I don't feel that way about myself. How about, how did I get to the point where I could play like this?
Sure.
All right. And that's because I think about it all the time. It's always in the back of my mind. It's always in my head.
Right.
There was never a point once I picked up the guitar where I thought, I don't have to do this anymore.
Right.
I like to describe it to people who may or may not get it. it's like the guitar was waiting for me to show up. Once I started playing, and once the scales, the pentatonic scale was unlocked, and I started playing, blues and along with the, classic rock records and recordings that I really loved, it was almost like the guitar opened up a dialogue with me. It's like, okay, you can do this now. Now try this.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. And so if I put my fingers here, it's gonna sound like this. That's right. Every time.
Right.
And and then it just built and built until finally it's just me and the guitar. People said, "What did you do from the ages of, 13 to 16?" Not a lot. I locked myself in my room and I played music because that's what made sense. And it made sense in a way that nothing else in my life did at that, hormonally challenged time, and by the time I left my room, I started playing in a band probably between the ages of 14 and 15, and it was because I could hear this stuff and replicate it on the guitar. And by the time I was 16, I was ready to be out and about with the guitar. The first time I played blues in a room full of people, their reaction was kind of, they had questions. What business do you have knowing any of this? And it's like, y'all don't understand. This is the vocabulary. This is the dialogue between me and the guitar. This is day in, day out, blisters on the finger, cramp in the wrist, playing through the pain to get at that moment when it sounds the way it's supposed to sound. That's the fruition of all of this hard work. That payoff. If you're not obsessed with it, you'll never understand. You know what I mean? Right. And I think I know. If you know. And I think that as musicians, and like I said, any creative, if you're creative, you go through that. You put yourself through that because whatever the art is greater than yourself. It's like it's not all about me.
Right.
When I get up on stage, and it took me a long time to learn this. When I get up on stage, I'm just a vessel. I'm a conduit. It's really about, what the audience wants to hear. It's about them. It's about sharing that. It's about clearing that space and sharing it with other people, because, when you meet performers, let's put it that way, who don't get that, it's so apparent.
Yeah.
It's so apparent. It's like, man, don't make this about you.
No.
Because
everything needs to be a community. It's not about one particular person.
Right.
As a band, we need to work together.
Yeah, and I'm not coming from a high horse. I forget it. I have my moments where I'm going to grandstand, and every time I do, I'm just like, why? Why did I do that? Because now I have to live it down and know that that's, where I was in that moment. It's therapeutic, though, when I do get to lose myself in that musical moment and build that with the band and having the audience there and having that feedback loop, that symbiosis going. There's nothing like it. There's people like to talk about magic.
Right.
Well, I believe that we make it. I believe that that's what we're doing in a very primitive, archetypal, deep down, ritualistic sense.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
And I embrace that. There's some people that are like, oh, that sounds a little weird. And I'm like, well, come on. Look at what performers do.
Yeah.
It is weird.
Right.
It is kind of strange. I was talking with a guitar playing friend just the other day, and he's like, man, I get nervous. I get stage fright. And it occurred to me, I don't.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm so awesome. It's because I just don't have that kind of time.
Right.
I don't have that bandwidth to give that particular feeling, because when it's time to play, it's time to be in that moment. It's time to open myself up to the possibility that this might not go where I want it to go, but I have to follow in that case in order to make that moment musical as opposed to a train wreck.
Right.
And we all know, we both know, what is a train wreck really? Why does it happen? Because there are either one or more people sharing the stage that just aren't listening.
Yep.
They've got something something else going on in their head. They're not, because you can take any aggregate of musicians and make something musical happen.
Of course.
I mean, from the most rank amateur to the most seasoned professional, you can put them together, and as long as they are willing to listen to each other, as long as they are willing to be in that moment together and to share it, something musical is going to happen. I try to remember that anytime I feel like I'm going sideways or what I'm doing, I'm going south. Just listen, John. Just take a step back and listen.
As
And
it should be.
almost inevitably, it works out. Because, anyway, I've gone on far too long about that.
Number one ingredient in a band performance is listening.
Yep.
And this is what I've always learned. The bass player and the drummer are the support. They're not the stars. And I've seen some instances where the drummer and the bass player are like trying to outplay each other. I'm like, come on, man. Look what you're doing to the vocalist or whoever's fronting the band. It's like, no, we're support. We're not the star. One more thing before we wrap this up. How do you memorize lyrics for songs? I mean, it's like being an actor. I mean, how do you memorize all this stuff? Is there a certain protocol?
With great difficulty. That is the bane of my existence. I was talking to CT about this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he, incredible vocalist, incredible front man.
Oh yeah.
And knows the lyrics to his song list like nobody's business. And I cheat sometimes, and I use my laptop so I can look at the lyrics. If I can get the first line to the verse, usually I can remember the whole verse. All right, and that's not with all songs. Like I can remember all the lyrics to "I Shot the Sheriff" because I played it, stoned, sober, or drunk or whatever for at least 3 years in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
in a reggae band, so I can that just it's in there. It's in there. It's like attending the birth of my son. That's forever engraved in my mind, But like some of the newer songs that I acquire, I need a little mental reminder. And CT's like, I can't use a prompt like that because if it's not coming from here, then I can't really sing it. And I was like, all right, fine, soul man, I get you. Some of us need some help. But what I do is I do try to apply that principle.
Yeah.
What is this song? What is that lyric meaning? All right. Don't just sing the words. What does it mean? It's kind of like, it is almost exactly in the same vein as learning dialogue. My wife was in a play a while back, and she would run lines.
Yeah.
And after she would run the lines, I would ask her, okay, so that line here where you say, whatever.
Yeah.
Where is that going emotionally? Even though this is a silly little play, emotionally, what's the motivation? Because if you can remember what the motivation of that line is, it doesn't matter what the other actor says or if they screw up their line.
Right.
You're still going to be able to get to the next one of your own because it makes sense emotionally, psychologically.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do with lyrics now.
Very
once
cool.
upon a dime, I threw the bums and dime. You threw the bums and dime in your prime, now didn't you? People call, say, "Beware, dog, you're bound to fall." You thought they were all kidding you. That's that first verse is setting up the emotional climax at the end of the song where you started here. Yeah, right, Miss Loney went to the finest school, but you only used to get juiced in it. Yeah, you had this life. You were this person, but now you're down here. If I can remember that, the lyrics just fall right out of my mouth.
Just happens.
And that's a difficult song to get because Dylan is it's on a tour de force of Dylanisms.
Right.
Like that. Hallelujah. By Leonard Cohen. I think it has 3,000 verses at this point. I'm not sure. It should be its own book of the Old Testament. But
Right,
because
Cohen,
there's so much to it. But once you get the emotional weight of the lyrics, it becomes easier. So there is this component of memorization, yes, but above all, I have to memorize the emotional landscape of the lyrics in order for them to really resonate and stick here.
Yeah.
So in that way, C.T. Davis taught me a very valuable lesson. Don't memorize lyrics. Memorize the emotions. Memorize the feelings of them, and then
the lyrics will just happen.
Yeah, they'll just come out. And if you screw up or flub every once in a while, folks aren't going to mind so much. They're going to be forgiving. I'll close with this. This is something that Les Paul said, and this is a recent lesson for me. He said, I'm a professional musician. The audience, they're not usually professional musicians. So I don't have to play over their heads to reach them. In fact, I think the whole point of that is the audience is there to share in that moment.
Right.
And if we can deliver that moment, it doesn't matter if I did it in, E flat major 7 Mixolydian or whatever. You know what I'm saying? What really matters is did Jon Griffin show up and help create this moment, that they'll remember, that took them outside of themselves for just a moment and helped them feel better. Because if I feel better, after it's all said and done, I think I know I think I fulfilled my purpose.
Of course, absolutely. Well, one last thing. Do you have a website or anything on Facebook that people can go see your schedule?
Yes. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I have a very vexed relationship with social media, so y'all are going to have to be patient with me, good people of the internet. I am a man of a certain age. I have an Instagram that I'm not really sure how to use, but I'm working on it. I'm on Facebook, JonGriffin. You'll see a picture of my fat head in black and white, and I'm making this face or something like this. I'm playing, and I have the white man overbite just in full effect. I'm on Reverb Nation. And it's under Jon Griffin Blues. Again, you'll see a picture of me. I have some songs there that they're not the best representations of what I can do. They're very old recordings that I made on a shoestring, and it shows. And I'm excited at the prospect, Paul, of working with you again on recording. I hope we can do that.
Absolutely.
Now that it's on, recorded on Deathless audio.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hold you to it. No,
we can do it. Hey, we can do everything right here.
I know, right? Look me up on Facebook. I'm gonna be posting my schedule for August.
Okay.
Probably either today or tomorrow. I'm gonna be trying to make events for those so that you can, get more information. I am gonna be recording and posting on either. I'm probably both Facebook and Reverb Nation. If anybody has a more up-to-date or what you feel is a better public social media forum for musicians, please let me know. Yeah. I absolutely depend on the kindness of strangers, as far as that goes. I really do need some guidance as far as, because I know that there's Reverb Nation. I like Reverb Nation okay, but I know that there are others too.
Of course.
So in any case, that's where you can find me. If you ever want to just reach out, you can contact me via email at jongriffinblues@gmail.com, JonGriffin@gmail.com. Hit me up if you want more information, or if you just want to give me a shout, or if you are running a venue and you like what I do, let me know.
Awesome. Well, John, it was a pleasure to have you on this podcast, and for those that are watching, guys, I just want to let you know, if you're out and about, get out to the venues, support live music. The bands will love to have you there, and plus it's just a great event. There's a lot of these places, great food, great entertainment, great music. A few of the places that I might want to mention is the Forum Pub. Every Wednesday night, C.T. Davis Powerhouse Blues Jam. Jon Griffin will be there. We have a lot of great players that come in. If you are a musician, bring your axe, bring your voice. Let's have some fun. 9 to 1 every Wednesday night. And anybody who wants to get out on a Sunday night, Nate's Seafood out in Addison. There's a lot of great stuff going on there. I think I do the second Sunday. We do rotate drummers. A lot of great drummers that come through there, a lot of great guitar players that come through there, but be sure to get out to that jam. That's every Sunday night from, I believe it's 8 to about 11:30ish, give or take. But any last words, John, before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Also, Tuesday is a big night for jams. There's the Balcony Club Jam. There's the Cottage Jam hosted by Jason Cloud. And there's the A Step Up Lounge Jam.
What nights are those?
Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
They're
Tuesdays,
all
okay.
on Tuesday. So there have been
Yeah.
nights when I've made all three because I'm a boss like that.
Right.
It's if you want to get out and rub shoulders and get to know some musicians, and you are a musician or you're just a supporter of the scene, that's a great night to get out. And of course, Wednesday is CT's Jam. And you'll never know who you'll see there. Sometimes, Tommy Katona will come through and just melt everybody's face.
I know, right?
And then, of course, the jam at Nate's on Sunday.
Yeah, and there's also another one, the Lion and Crown, I believe, out in Allen.
Thursday.
That's every Thursday. I don't remember who's hosting that one right now. Dave Taylor?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Dave Taylor's another great guitar player /
Yeah,
bass player.
yeah.
Good vocalist too, and he's always good to go see. So get out there, get to that one as well. It's every Thursday at 8:00.
Yeah. And just let me give a shout out to my lovely wife.
Awesome.
Barrett, my son,
Barrett.
Finn,
Yeah, Finn.
and everybody that has ever been kind and supportive to me on this journey. I really appreciate all of you, and God bless and stay safe.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you all for joining us today. And again, a lot of good stuff coming up in the future. We've done some updates here in my studio, and we're bringing a lot of good things to the table for future podcasts. I'm going to have some really good guests on, and I will keep everybody updated on what we're doing there. But just keep an eye open and an ear open for stuff that we're going to be putting on Facebook and YouTube. So if you get a chance, we do these podcasts. We air these on Sunday nights, both YouTube and Facebook at the same time. But with that, I'm going to bid y'all a goodbye, and thanks for listening. We're out. Take care now, y'all.